So I live in Edmonton, Alberta, and I regularly use transit. And the transit in Edmonton has a major issue. And the issue is that there's a limited number of ways that you can actually pay for transit. So the first way you can pay for transit is by using coins, and the other way is by using a transit card called a card. Now, the reason why this is a problem is because let's say you forget your transit card or you're a newcomer, you're out of luck, because more likely than not, you won't have an app card and you won't be carrying coins on you. Also, another issue with the transit card is actually the website where you add funds to your transit card. So every time you want to add funds to your transit card, every single time you actually have to enter your billing address. The website is not the best, and I've missed the bus a few times because of this issue. So that is what got me interested in solving the problem. And I decided there was no better place to solve the problem than in a hackathon. So the catch is that I had 48 hours to build out a solution to this problem. Another thing is that the last 3 hackathons I have been to, I formed the habit of going solo. So the solution I decided to build a solution where I can use a regular NFC card to pay for transit, but we could also use Apple or Google Pay, which I think makes everything a lot easier because everyone carries their phone around, and in a sense it's almost an extension of you. I think that would make paying for transit a lot easier. I had only 48 hours to do it in this hackathon. I had to build an application where the user could log in and they could add funds into their account, and they will have a card linked to their account, and that card will also have a QR code with it, which you could then use to pay for transit. So this is how we went. Considering the fact that I was going solo and I only had 48 hours to go about this project, I decided to go with the tech stack that makes me feel the most optimal. The stack I decided to go with was the T3 stack, popularized by Theo. So I was using Next.js for my application. Next.js is, I think most people know what it is, flavor of React that allows you to handle full front end at the back end. And I decided to go with TRPC. This is actually type safe remote procedure calls. So it's a type safe API. And honestly, this is one of the best developer experience I've had using any tool since I've been programming. I decided to go with Drizzle and Postgres for the database. Drizzle was my ORM. It was also really nice to work with. Postgres was actually running on Docker locally on my machine, and because I'm only trying to show a demo, there's no need to do anything more than that. For authentication, I decided to go with Clerk. This is one of the few instances where I actually outsource my authentication. Usually I try and do it myself to a certain degree. And finally, I decided to use Stripe to handle payment. The goal for Stripe was actually for payments. This was to allow users to upload funds from their bank account into their transit card so they could pay for transit. And by the end of 24 hours, although I did run into some issues, especially regarding webhooks and setting up Stripe, I was able to finish this in under 24 hours. And this is actually a very short time period to be able to do this. And the reason why I feel I was able to do this is because I've done this so many times, like especially using the T3 stack, where I feel like I can already see errors before they happen. So I feel that experience played a big factor in me being able to speed everything up. I did use some AI tools as well. I used V0 for my landing page, and yeah, that was pretty much it. By midnight that day, I was able to finish building the app. Now I only had 24 hours left, and the interesting part was about to start. So the scanner part of my project is basically built using a Raspberry Pi, and I'm connecting an external camera and a card reader to the Raspberry Pi. I also connected 2 LEDs, a green one for success and a red one as an indicator for failure, and I added a buzzer for that part as well. Let's dive into the details a little bit. So the protocol that I used for communication from my card reader to my Raspberry Pi was I2C, Inter-Integrated Circuit. So it's a 2-wire communication protocol. There's a wire for the SDA and there's a wire for the SCL. Now SDA is actually the wire that's used to send data, while SCL is just for the time and synchronization. There are also 2 other ports in the NFC card that you connect to your Raspberry Pi. One is the ground pin and one is the VCC pin, so that one is just for power. If you go to pin out, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. You'll be able to see what pins are ground, what pins are GPIO pins, what pins are power pins. In the Raspberry Pi, I think GPIO pin 2 and 3 are the pins for SDA, and SCL. It took me a while. I ran into some issues while I was working on the project, such as I was actually in school when I was working on the project, and I found out that our school Wi-Fi doesn't allow Raspberry Pis to connect to the internet. So that took me like 2 hours, and I already had less than a day to finish the project. So I had to use my mobile hotspot as the power for the Raspberry Pi, and I ran into some issues when I was trying to connect the card to the NFC card reader, because apparently there are different communication protocols like I2C, SPI, UART, and at the time I didn't even know this. But if I had to make some changes on the card to choose what protocol I wanted. Now our card scanner was ready, our application was ready. Now we need a way to combine the two. And the way we're doing that is using webhook. I used ngrok tunnels, because keep in mind this is a hackathon, so everything was done on my computer. So I used ngrok tunnels to create the URL on my computer that I can actually hit from the Raspberry Pi. When we use ngrok tunnels, so the way it works is when the user scans a card, we send a request, and the request, since we have a webhook on our application, actually does a query, checks if the user is valid, checks if the card is actually associated with the user, and then we also check if they have sufficient enough balance for the transaction. And if they do, the transaction proceeds and they see a green light and we have a buzzer sound, and it's the opposite if there's a failure. So we get a red sound, it can be insufficient funds, the card might not just be valid. So that's the way we were able to get the card reader running. But however, we're not yet done, and I had only 5 hours left at this time. The reason we're not done is because the main problem I was trying to solve was to make it more accessible. So now we actually have to get the camera to work. In our database, since we already stored the user's card number, I can actually generate a QR code based on that card number, and we could give it to the user. I was thinking of actually just creating it on Apple Wallet, but the problem is paying $99 a year for the Apple Developer Program, and for just a demo project, I'm just not going to do that. I just decided to use regular QR codes. So we generate the QR code so the user can download it on their phone. And the idea is when they scan the QR code in front of the camera is going to decode the QR code. When I decoded the QR code, I obtained the card number, and when I obtained the card number, I just same thing all over again. I just send the request to our webhook and we see what we get, and based on the results, transaction either succeeds or fails. That part was actually a lot more difficult, and I was actually under a lot of time constraint for that part, because I was able to do it out in 5 hours. Most of my issues were actually setting up, connecting the camera to the Raspberry, and the main reason for that is because the camera I was using is not an official Raspberry camera. So because it was not an official Raspberry camera, I had to change a few settings in the config file, and that took me a while to figure out. So once I got that part ready, got the card scanner part ready, the project was ready to go. And then the last thing I decided to do was add WebSockets. Now the reason why I did this is I want, when we scan our QR code, right, and if the transaction is successful, I want our balance to automatically update. So that's why I use WebSockets for that part. They're not really essential, but I felt like they make the demo look a lot better. So now I'm going to show you guys a demo. So the first thing we go to our site, and then we log in. Remember I talked about the authentication being done by click. When we log in and we gain access to our application, next thing we're going to do is that we're actually going to add some funds into our accounts. And let's say I'll just add like $8. Stripe makes everything so easy. So now we have $8 in our account and we're ready to roll. So I told you guys about the card UID. I was able to get the card UID by just scanning the card and going into Python and typing print card UID. So I was able to get it. And when I got that, I literally just used the marker to write the card UID. So now I have the card UID. I'm just going to enter my card ID into my account. And once I enter it into my account, my card is now linked to my account. And then I'm just going to tap the card on my NFC scanner, and I will see the results of that. And now the card scan was successful. And yeah, you can see that $3.75 left my account. That was fixed price associated with each ride. So $3.75 left my account. So that is good now. But now I'm going to download the QR code and send it to my phone. And when I have the QR code on my phone, I'm actually going to use it on the scanner and we'll see how that works. And then I'm just placing it in front of my scanner, and you can see, oh, the buzzer goes up with the green light, and you see that was also successful as well. So pretty much this was all I had to do for the hackathon, and I won an award for this hackathon, which was really good. I also landed an interview because I was able to demo this at demo camp. Although I got to the final stage of the interview, I didn't get the job offer, but this is one of the projects I'm proudest of, because the other project that I've been working on was like an actual SaaS product. So that's not like a fun project, it's more like work at this point. But this project was one of the projects I just did for fun, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, that's why I feel like I really like hackathons. But yeah, like I have a non-ending list of projects. Like I can literally never run out of the projects I want to do. So hackathons give me a good chance to work on some of those projects. But yeah, I had fun that day. So this is pretty much the whole story. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.